Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is a crazy show. We're going to break down exactly who's selling, who's not selling, who's manipulating, and some of the crazy stuff that's happening with some of our favorite assets that are actually colliding. It is crazy. Hang on. We got sound, which is good. Always good. Always good to have sound. So thank you all for coming, you crypto enthusiasts. I don't know why this thing keeps bouncing around. But anyway, we'll look into cohorts and what's going on. 60 huge nuggets today of how the whole world is intertwined. And a shout out to Tough Guy who sent me this. I said I never tried whiskey before, but I've got a bottle of Black Label. He said, you got to try it when Bitcoin hits 100,000. Well, we got within $170 of the 100,000, but the sell-offs are normal when we hit that big milestone. So this will have to wait, but I'm going to keep it here at my desk, and hopefully it won't be one of those 3 or 4 hours when I'm sleeping when Bitcoin does hit 100,000, and then we're going to crack this together. So that's a promise, and I never let people down. So let's jump into the story today. Thank you all to the mods in the chat and everybody all over the world. It's brilliant to see all the flags. And a disclaimer, just a guy on the internet. This is not financial advice, never is. Shout out to Patreon too. A wonderful group of people there. And let me read this one from Lucia. I hit the like as soon as I come in, and that way I don't forget. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sean and T&D Tesla, for all you do. Been a Patreon member for some time now. Awesome. And a lot of the people that are in Patreon, they're veterans and they're not easily shaken out. A lot of people are surprised that we just didn't go straight up beyond 100K, but that's just not how markets work. Nothing goes straight up. Everything mean reverts, which you know from this channel. Now we're going to get into the ugly news and the bad news. And a warning, there's a lot of bad news today. And ugly news too. First of all, token unlocks. We always kick off with this. Another big SUI unlock. Optimism, Immutable X, Zeta, 1 inch. Zeta has 11% unlock. Avalanche, and 30 million. Say is in there too. Cardano. And this is ranked, by the way, by dollar value, 17.35 million. DYDX, ENA will always rain down tokens. Jito, Meme, and Wormhole. They are the list of the big unlocks that are happening over the next 7 days. That's just what happens in crypto. Anyway, Lawfare as well, in the ugly news, did not die after all. This from Ro Khanna, who is a Democrat, by the way. Tesla makes over 550,000 vehicles in Fremont, which is in California, in my district, and employs over 20,000 people. Let's not play with politics and keep manufacturing in California. It would be foolish to exclude Tesla. This is because the governor of California, a guy called Gavin Newsom, hates Elon Musk, and he wants to give EV incentives to combat, because the EV incentives, by the way, could go away when the new president goes into office, which means if you're American, you won't be able to get that $7,500 credit, but California just loves spending money, so they're going to give it to all EV makers, except for Tesla, because he doesn't like Elon Musk. It's just insane that this type of crap can happen with politicians. How they can get away with this is despicable. And California now has the highest unemployment in the nation, highest crime, highest homelessness. It's winning so many competitions right now. But I'm not going to get off on a tangent. And back to manufacturing and why it's so important is because the Chinese completely dominate industrial production. The world is changing fast. And this from Michael Arouet. And not only is China dominating in car manufacturing, but also manufacturing of pretty much everything with the exception of semiconductors. Ships, toys, you name it, phones, all made in China. And that domination is going to continue. The two countries that could actually hold par with China for quite some time were Korea and Japan, and now they can no longer hang. And we saw what's happening in Germany right now, and the US as well. Manufacturing is more or less dead with the exception of 1 or 2 players. And the final piece of ugly news, this is the unicorn rainbow combination Fed mandate of 2% core inflation and about 4% unemployment, 4 and a bit percent unemployment. The y-axis is unachievable, as we've talked about for many, many years now. And the x-axis is underreported. So again, it's just nonsense. A lot of talk right now about will the Fed cut rates in December or not? Now there's more odds, about 30% odds that they maybe will not after an expectation that they were. But it doesn't matter. Life will go on anyway. The Fed needs to be pushed away and replaced with something logical like, I don't know, a DAO or AI or something. We don't need 320 PhDs who don't know what they're doing. Now, let's get into the bad news, everybody. First of all, this has been flying around the internet. Has a lot of people very concerned. Shout out to Joe Consorti, who is awesome. But some say Bitcoin will fall further because it lags M2. This is a Bitcoin chart versus global M2. You can see that global M2 is now 104.79 trillion. My forecast back in 2023 was we'd break 100 trillion. Well, we did that, and here we are. But it has fallen off a little bit. It's gone from 108 down to 105, call it $3 trillion, which really is a nothing burger. But the way this chart looks, like a 3% drop in global M2 would make you think, oh my God, Bitcoin's going to crash. It's going to die. It's going to go down to 60,000. Yeah, no. So I'm going to run counter to Joe. Much respect for his work. This is my view of the world, all right? And I watch liquidity, global M2 like a hawk all the time, even M2. So I put together a chart going back to 2018 up to today. The yellow is global M2. I wrote M2 twice. I have no idea why. There you are. And the green lines are showing you when it rises. And just a few examples and when Bitcoin goes down. So typically per Joe, there is a 70, 80-day time lags, call it 10 weeks, 75 days typically, between M2 spiking and then the price of Bitcoin spiking. The question is what happens afterwards. So I don't see this happening at all. Let's go back in history. So we see in late 2017, Bitcoin topped and it tanked into 2018. But global M2 continued to grow up until summer 2018. So that's an anomaly. And there's many more between then and 2021. But I'm going to focus on 2021 for a second. 2020, 2021, global money supply went up, rampaging for years and years and years up until nearly mid-2022, but Bitcoin crashed in April 2021, and it crashed again in November 2021. So we had that double top situation last bull run. And then as Bitcoin continued to tank, global money supply kept on going up. Even when Bitcoin bottomed, global money supply was going up, and eventually it followed. And then we have the recent example of early 2024. Global money supply started shooting up in around March, and the Bitcoin price fell, in fact, chopped sideways and went down even up to the August event of global carry trade reversing out of Japan. So the point I'm trying to make here is, you can see it in the data, don't sweat global M2 too much, and don't sweat a 3% drop. That's my message here. It doesn't mean Bitcoin's going to fall to $60,000, okay? There's bigger things in play, like who is snacking on Bitcoin. We'll get to that too, and who is selling and other stuff. Now, first part of who is selling, and this is broken into different parts. First of all, there's some Axel on Twitter, and he talks about the panic sellers. And you can see the people who are selling Bitcoin, they're selling at a loss over the past 24 hours. About 54,600 Bitcoin were sent to exchanges at a loss. These people were freaking out, probably because they saw Joe's chart and they said, oh, I don't want no part of that. I just got into Bitcoin. Now I'm really nervous and I'm going to panic sell. It's like the panic sell meme with Bruce Lee or something in it. I wish I could throw it in now. Also related to weird stuff that's happening, because it's not always selling that's going on. And shout out to Marty, DCA member. He put together this great little chart here that shows Solana. Now, if you look here, you can see a typical crypto movement with market order bubbles turned on. These are green bubbles, which indicate actual spot buying of the asset. The price goes up, especially when big bubbles happen. Then price goes down when there are red bubbles. But the problem is there are no red bubbles. And this is, to him, in his mind, a clear indication that the derivative exchanges are manipulating prices down to flush long traders, not spot sellers. Now, in the bear market, that doesn't happen. It's the reverse, but only red bubbles with a few greens. And the point is, nobody's selling spot. And Marty says, don't get shaken out. I think the derivative manipulators, just like Marty does, are playing a game because they see how many people are leveraged long, and they want to create a counterforce to make sure that those leveraged long players don't make a lot of money. And that's why they're pushing the price down, but people are not selling their spot Solana. And I'll tell you the reason why in about 20 or 30 slides. Now, Bitcoin, however, is a little bit different. The on-chain data does show that there are panic sellers. They tend to be short-term cohorts and smaller players. They are not the whales. We'll get into that in a second too. But you could have a potential leverage hunt. The market makers have gotten rid of most of the leverage in Bitcoin. And I'm just going to pull up the exact price. We're rebounding. Good. We did fall down today to about $90,600. $90,600 per this chart you see here. We are looking at a potential to fall down to 89K, but pretty unlikely. They got most of it. They got that last orange dot around 90,600. So don't expect much more of a sell-off in Bitcoin. Now, there's more. A lot of bad news. I did warn you all, in fairness. This is the average cost to mine from Macro Micro, and I do monitor this every week. What's stunning is a week ago, the average cost to mine was 80,000. Today, it's 89,620, which tells you the hash rate's gone up. And this is when the average Bitcoin price was kind of at 98K. This is the data for this is November 24th, which is 2 days ago. And it could even be higher today. But the point is, very few miners are making bank. This is the average mining cost. It doesn't take into account the big deviations. So those miners that are running old rigs are probably, they probably need a $94,000 plus Bitcoin just to make a profit. And if they're running old rigs, they're not doing that. Now, the new miners that have replaced all their old ASICs miners with modern rigs that are very effective and efficient, they're probably making a lot of money. They're probably mining one Bitcoin at an average of 65,000 or less. So they're making lots of money. So don't think all miners are dead, but they are getting wrecked again. Miners continue to get crushed. And you can see here some of the big names. BTBT down 13%, Cypher 12.25%, CleanSpark 12%, BitDeer 9%, WAGMI, which is a fund, 8%. So it's brutal across the board, whereas Bitcoin only fell 1.8%. But that's what happens. Sometimes Bitcoin has been bouncing, but the miners haven't, because many of them are ATMing right now too, which means issuing stock to buy these modern, effective, and efficient rigs. And that's just how it works. So I'm glad I got the ugly and the bad news out of the way. Let's get into the good news, where we break it all down. Fear and greed came down off that crazy 93 the other day. Now we're at 79, which makes me a little more comfortable. I don't like numbers that are really, really high, because that means markets are a little bit irrational. And then you know when you're up around 93, 94 greed, there's going to be a pullback. That's just the nature of the beast, ladies and gentlemen. Dirk Diggler, thank you for coming. TND Tesla, K8, Sean Donnelly, once again, appreciate you for keeping the whole community safe here. Now, this is another piece of probably the hopium slide of the day from Bitcoin Magazine Pro. And this is a cool chart. It shows you the year-over-year change. And I'll break it down. Hope I can explain it as best I can. The black arrows down, pointing to the line, are at the 100% level. And after that, we get into the Banazone, the big green spikes. And that shows you the gains that happen after we hit this level. We are at this level right now of the returns year over year. And still, we've yet to really kick off into high gear and get to that banana zone or the parabolic zone. So a lot of goodness still yet to come. For those people who believe $99,830 was the top, we have a long way to go, and I'll show you a ton of data to prove that. First of all, BlackRock, shout out to Thomas. BlackRock continues to stack. All the other ETFs sold yesterday, but BlackRock bought nearly 3,000 Bitcoin. They are snacking every single day. I've calculated they are buying, on average, 2,200 Bitcoin a day for 222 days. I'll repeat that. BlackRock average 2,200 Bitcoin a day over the last 222 trading days since January 11th. Crazy statistic. And here, that's above their average right now, too. And they had some huge days as well, a week or so back. Now, ETFs as well. They smashed the million Bitcoin milestone. They're now at 1.076 Bitcoin. This is from Crypto Quant. And you can see how fast it's gone up from 900,000 to nearly 200,000 since September, which is a massive amount of stacking, ladies and gentlemen. Massive. And it's not just BlackRock, it's other players too. So this is big news. And I know the Bitcoin maxis go, oh, we want this thing to be centralized. We don't want big Wall Street players hodling our Bitcoin or MicroStrategy, etc. But hey, as I say, if they weren't here, you'd be enjoying a $40,000 Bitcoin right now. And that's just a fact of life. Also, shout out to Eric Balchunas. Pacman mode activated. He said, while all eyes were on MicroStrategy, ETFs quietly ingested more than 10x the amount of Bitcoin mined last week. And it's not just the ETFs. It's not just the crazy 55,000 Bitcoin buy that cost over $5 billion from Microsoft. But all the big money are quietly snacking behind the scenes, the whales, etc. We'll show you some of that information too. Retail is not part of the party. In fact, retail are the players that are actually selling right now. This is from Kyung Ju. Retail investors aren't in FOMO yet. They have not arrived. And I honestly don't even know if they will arrive, to be honest. It's very hard for a retail investor to look at a $90,000 plus Bitcoin and say, I'll take a couple of those. People just don't have that money. And they don't feel comfortable buying a tiny fraction. They say, why bother? I could have bought it at 15,500 2 years ago and I missed. Therefore, I'm going to play with meme coins. Or something else like MicroStrategy. Who knows? I don't know what people are doing. Now, there is a key level to watch, and this is the $92,000 to $93,000 level. We are actually beneath that right now by about $400. But here you can see the adjusted estimate leverage ratio from Bybit. And the focus here should be around that level where the leverage should go away and flush the market at this 92 to 93 level. This is where a lot of people, the big money traders, bought puts when we hit 98K, 99K, either to hedge their downside or speculate. And now I believe, and so does CryptoQuant, maybe this is where they would take profit. Because when you're buying a put, you don't want to sit in it that long. It's expensive insurance, etc. So you just sell it while things are still volatile. And who is selling? Well, this is interesting. The long-term holders are selling, but only the new ones. Now, to break that down, exactly what that means, this means basically there are long-term holders, typically somebody who holds more than 155 days. But this big red chunk of sellers are the people who bought in the last 6 to 12 months ago. And they led the charge of spending about 26,000 Bitcoin a day in profits. But they all bought at around the 60K, 55 to 65K mark. And they basically made 50, 60% of their money. And they are the ones taking profits. The long-term holders that have been in for more than a year are not selling. But there's other selling data too. Shout out to HODL15 Capital. The smaller players are distributing their coins too. These are the people with everything less than 100 Bitcoin. You can see here year to date, and even now, that the people with under 1 Bitcoin have sold 23,000. The people with 1 to 10 Bitcoin have sold 56,000 Bitcoin. And the people with 10 to 100 Bitcoin have sold 122,000 Bitcoin. They are the people selling. Now, the people with 100 plus, they are the whales. They are snacking. They're eating all the stuff the small players are selling, and they're buying a lot more. And decentralization is going the wrong way. Only 7% of the Bitcoin supply is actually held with addresses now with less than 1 Bitcoin. I will be doing a detailed breakdown of how all the wallet sizes and the cohorts have changed because I want to find out myself. But it's a lot of a heavy lift, but I'll do it, and it'll be coming soon. But this is shocking to see now. It doesn't mean that the small players with, say, less than 1 Bitcoin, they're selling their Bitcoin, they might be buying the ETF instead, or a proxy like MicroStrategy. I know a lot of people that are doing that too, so we'll see. But to give you another view of exactly who is buying, these are the big players that are stacking really, really hard this year in 2024. IBIT, nearly 500,000 Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, nearly 400,000 Bitcoin. You add these two together, that's nearly 900,000 Bitcoin. Call it $1 million if you want to round up. Grayscale, 217,000. Fidelity catching up behind, nearly 200,000. You got Tether, 82,000. Tether bank all their profits and they buy Bitcoin with it. And they are making so much money right now. That's probably why Cantor Fitzgerald wanted to partner with them. ARK, BITB, and then you've got Marathon, who also spent $1 billion in Bitcoin, have nearly 34,000 now. And you got Riot, Tesla, Coinbase, Hut. It's incredible. People think Hut have the biggest bag. They did have the biggest percentage of their market cap as a bag of Bitcoin, but not the biggest as a percentage of the size of the amount of bag, like 9,000 Bitcoin versus Marathon that now is 34,000. So that's kind of where all the big players that continue to stack and buy and hold are growing way faster. And the little retail people with under 100 Bitcoin are selling. And that's just what's happening. And another view of this, shout out to James Van Straten, he put together this beautiful little chart, which I found very interesting too. And again, a lot of talk about the distribution of long-term holders supply. A lot of people panicked. And just a quick reminder to everybody as well. The way markets work is sentiment drives a lot of irrational behavior. You've got people that are extremely bullish and they FOMO and they'll pay anything to get anything. And as soon as things turn around and go negative, the negativity is amplified and people get really afraid and they look for reasons to panic sell. That's why you see this short-term holders selling like hell. And this one too, where's a panic seller chart? This one, in the last 24 hours, just, we're all going to die. And they run for the hills. And this, stay calm. You know where the big game is going. Keep your seatbelt on. Don't be shaken out is the message. Anyway, getting back to where I was, if I remember this, the James Van Straten slide, let me try and break it down. But long-term holders, every bull cycle, they sell into price strength. They actually sell every time we hit a new all-time high or get close to it. But what's really interesting about this cycle is the percentage that they are selling continues to diminish each bull cycle. So far, they've sold about 500,000 Bitcoin since this market began of that supply, and it is being far outstripped by the ETFs and MicroStrategy. So again, to put things in perspective, BlackRock and MicroStrategy nearly have 900,000. These long-term holders have only sold half of that. The rest is coming from the small players. And if this trend continues, we could see maybe another 163,000 Bitcoin sold before it bottoms out around December or January. But we're not sure. But when you look at the actual drop, so if you look at, say, 2016 to 2018, it took them a lot longer to sell, but they sold 25% of their bag. October 2020 to 2021, they sold 13.43% of the bag. December 2023 to April 2024, when we've hit the first all-time high, they sold 6.5% of the bag. Now, they replenished their bag between April and September, and now they sold it again, but they only sold 3.8%. So if you get the idea here is the long-term holders are not selling anywhere near as much as they used to sell because they are more bullish than ever before, and they know this is scarcer than ever before. It's a bona fide asset. You've got all these institutional players coming in. You got the pension funds coming in. You got nation-state Bitcoin. You got treasuries galore every single day. This is why they're not selling, perhaps. The narrative now is 1 billion times stronger than it was at the beginning of the year, even with the rumor of ETFs being launched. It is insane. So I've never been more bullish on Bitcoin anyway. And here's more bullish hit, if you can take any more. Shout out to Natalie Brunel. She had a long interview with Saylor. And Saylor's bull case during that interview, he said, for Bitcoin is $49 million per coin in today's dollars. Ta-da! Of course, there'll be some debasement and everything else, but he always talks about the 13 million. Every Bitcoin you don't buy today will be worth $13 million. And that's his expected case, not his bull case. And he says that'll happen by the year 2045. So, very exciting times as well. We'll see where this all goes. But we know fiat is going to zero, so Bitcoin is going to go up anyway. And game theory update. Shout out to Marty once again. A bill to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve has been introduced in Brazil. Oi, tá bom, everybody out there? And this from the Chamber of Deputies. Again, these Bitcoin reserves, strategic Bitcoin reserves for nation states. I told you, if the US is rumored to do it, other players are going to have to do a preemptive strike. Do it first. This is all about who prints their fiat and buys Bitcoin. First mover advantage is very important in this game theory. It's absolutely critical. But there's more. Here we are. This is the potential next president of Suriname. Her name is Maya Parbo. She is Oxford educated, and she pledges to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender, replacing the Suriname dollar with sats and paying salaries in Bitcoin. Now, again, I just mentioned Brazil, now Suriname. I know it's a small country, but she is very smart, understands economics, has been watching the crypto space, has been watching Nayib Bukele, what's happened to his nation, and every other nation, every other institution, every other corporate that adds Bitcoin. They just win. It's not hard. Yeah, it'll be volatile. It might be painful, but eventually you win. And that's just how it works. And then, we're going to a little world tour here today. Morocco is going to legalize Bitcoin. This is from Bitcoin Magazine. And this is following their crypto ban in 2017. Thank you, Thomas, as well. It's just a shame they're legalizing it now when it's nearly 100,000 and not when it was like 10,000 or 15,000 or 3,000 or whatever it was back in 2017. It was $3,000. So it's a bit sad, but better late than never. Again, game theory. And in part of one of the series I love to analyze, and shout out to Sanjay too, this is a cool chart because I always try and analyze when the most action happens, which day of the week, which time of the day, which trading zone, etc. And this is a cool chart from Jim Bianco. And what time of the day does Bitcoin rally? Well, the best time to play is not to day trade during New York Stock Exchange hours, which is 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but wait till the market closes and then hold it overnight. That's the secret. Bitcoin sells off during US market hours. And it's funny because I did an analysis of this in the Q&A last Sunday, and we had a similar finding too. It was always best, I said, wait till the US market closes to buy. So I'm glad this is affirming that too. And quietly, when everybody is bearish and they think the world is going to end, Tether quietly mints $15 billion in 17 days. I feel like the guy who he puts his finger in his mouth and he says, $1 million for a ransom or something. I don't know what it is, but it's a meme. Anyhow, 15 billion in 17 days is huge. Why is it huge? Why do we care? Well, that money goes into crypto. That money will go into Bitcoin and leading crypto assets. And that's why it's very good for the space. So speaking of those leading crypto assets, time to switch gears. Bitcoin season. Wow, it just went to 53. So we're actually moving out of Bitcoin season into alt season. Alt season really kicks off when it hits 75, but now we are just over middle of the range. So Bitcoin season may not be on any longer. Here are the top 50 players over the last 90 days. Monero is back with a vengeance, up 408%. Shout out as well to Gary Gensler because he's responsible for that. Monero is a privacy coin, very much frowned upon by the current SEC, which is now out of power. And they have the unwavering commitment to privacy, community support, etc. And this is now good. Monero loves that Gary is gone. Woohoo. So number 2, Sui. Number 3, OM. And then Doge, number 4. And then a whole bunch of other players. And down the right... no, XLM, sorry. XLM is Stellar. XMR is Monero. I screwed up there. Stellar. Stellar is up because they're now having a lot of adoption, doing a lot of transactions. We'll talk about transactions in a sec. Sorry, I get my XMRs, my XLMs confused all the time. Apologies for that. I don't follow these ones very, very closely, so I confuse Stellar payment method with a privacy coin. Whoops. Anyway, I'm glad I caught that live. And I got nobody talking in my ear either. Anyway, narratives, which ones won the month? Well, store value up 127%. And layer 1 smart contract platforms, 122.5%. Bitcoin up 40%. Ethereum up 34%. Overall, it's been an incredible Moonvember. Absolutely incredible, beyond my wildest dreams. So much for diminishing returns. We certainly didn't get them in Moonvember. Let's look at money flow. Follow the money, ladies and gentlemen. Another record-breaking week. They saw the largest weekly inflows last week on record, over $3.13 billion. Year to date, nearly $40 billion again. A crazy, crazy year. Way bigger, way better than expectations. And money flow by asset too. Let's check on this. Bitcoin, as I mentioned, 3.13 billion. Prices hit all-time new highs. A little bit of profit taking happened. We covered that already. But now we see Solana outpacing Ethereum. Ethereum just brought in 2.8 million. At least it's positive. It's been bleeding all year since the ETF launched. But Solana brings in 16.2 million. Remember, the assets under management, only 2 billion for Solana, 14 billion for Ethereum. So Ethereum is a much bigger asset, but the money is flowing into Solana and also XRP, 15.2 million into XRP. That is the biggest flow into XRP I have ever seen. Ever. And again, much of this is attributable to Gary Gensler going bye-bye. All coins are on fire. Chainlink, Litecoin also saw measurable inflows. Chainlink 1.3 million. Cardano 700,000. Litecoin 4.1 million. Short Bitcoin as well, 10.4 million. But that's because people want to hedge their bags when it gets to a top. When you see a real top level, you'll see people FOMOing into short Bitcoin, and that's how it works. Let's check out the market cap over daily transactions, because this is important. And let me see. XLM isn't a layer 1, layer 2 smart contract platform, so it's not on this list. But I need to check it out and see how many transactions they're doing, because that's one of the reasons why it's going up as well. But just to highlight the most expensive versus least expensive assets, most expensive being Cardano, Polkadot, Ethereum, and Stacks. That means every transaction they do costs about $300,000 in terms of market cap dedicated to that one transaction. That's an expensive blockchain using my analytic methodology, not yours. You can make up your own. I don't care. Solana's at 2,000. ZK Sync at 4,000. What else do we have there? Elrond 2,200. Arbitrum 1,300. Aptos 2,000. Algorand around 1,400. So these are, it's just one of 60 metrics that you need to look at to understand exactly which ones are overpriced or not. But even if the price is very low, it doesn't mean it's very good. But we'll see. Anyway, speaking of Solana too, Solana hits a crypto all-time high in the number of daily transactions. 54 million transactions on a blockchain. And yes, it's still up and running, which is great. But again, people say, oh, the blockchain always goes down. Yeah, it hasn't happened since the little glitch at the beginning of the year in January. It's been rock solid ever since, and it's never been busier. A view of what's going on. You have a lot more adoption happening cross-chain. Base is now live on Solana's Phantom wallet, and Base is enabling token swaps between Base and Solana and easy ETH USDC purchases if anybody wants to buy ETH or USDC. But let's get into the real numbers here. And just why do we care about this? Why would Base work with Solana? It's a layer 2 on Ethereum. The answer is because it's busy as hell. The number 2 crypto in terms of number of daily transactions is Base at 9.2 million. Solana's 54.3 million. And next is Tron, 8.4 million. Remember, Tron, all those transactions are for stablecoin transfers. Near Protocol, 6 million. Most of those transactions are for shopping coupons in Asia. Okay? There's no chain out there that has a breadth of dApps like Solana does. Base is the closest, and that's why they've got 9.2 million daily transactions. It's bonkers. And then you got Cardano with 100,000. Again, the green line just shows you that Solana is completely leaving the rest in the dust. I hope people can see that. This is the black hole. And it's funny because I've been calling it black hole Sol for years. Now the media is doing the same thing. Woohoo! Hope they watch me. This is from Solana News. Breaking over $300 million is bridged to Solana from other coins in the past 7 days. The liquidity black hole will only speed up as most applications are being built on Solana. Fired answer makes it possible to scale all these applications. And again, we've got to wait for the full-scale deployment of Fired Answer, but it's coming. It's already running out there, as you heard yesterday at DCA. So Black Hole Sol is now a mainstream term. Woohoo! I like making up new names. And I love when people adopt them. And other little chains that are happening. This is the Solana Telegram bot, BonkBot, hits $10 billion in lifetime volume, and it's only new. So it's crazy, the adoption and the amount of DEX activity is happening on the chain. And again, that's why the transactions are going through the roof. Users are going through the roof. There's nowhere else to go, I'm afraid. That's it. So if you have a chain and it's doing 100,000 daily active users or 100,000 transactions or 50,000 daily active users, you got another one doing 55 million. Yeah, you can figure it out. Hopefully. Don't stay loyal to your assets. Don't get married to your assets. Stock market performance over the last 7 days is it's like the stock market is running out of energy. The so-called Trump trade is kind of dying out. It was a crazy 3 weeks. But Microsoft up 2%, Apple up 2%, Meta up 2%, Amazon up 1%, Google down 5%, Nvidia down 7%, Tesla down 2%. It's just nothing really kicked off, nothing really huge to report. But there are some interesting things happening. And this was not on my bingo card for 2024 or 2025. But this is kind of crazy. This is more DePIN news, which is decentralized physical infrastructure play, which is all happening on Solana again. But a company called Natix Network launches DePIN device, which is a DePIN camera for all Tesla models. And now people that have this dash cam that feeds off the cameras in Teslas, and it's used for footage for mapping and autonomous driving as well. So again, you've got the partnership of Solana with this company called Natix.network, I think, working with Tesla to now map roads. Kind of like, I can't remember the other one. The other DePIN company that has been mapping the worlds too. And of course, if you do this, you get paid in the native token too, which is, I'm going to maybe screw this up. I think it's NATX, but check it out. Maybe NATIX, I'm not sure, but check it out yourselves. And Tesla is doing live tests of the Cybercab in the rain. This is from Joe Tegmeyer. They've been testing and launching the Cybercab around the factory the last couple of weeks, including test drives on the west side. And again, their California also has Cybercabs running, but they're not this model. They're Model 3s and Model Ys and Model Xs as well, running around California, but only for Tesla employees to step into, because Tesla's primary focus and everything that they do is safety first. Autonomous vehicles, if they go wrong, they could be quite dangerous, so they want to make sure these things are tried and tested. And how do you flex when you go shopping at the mall? I don't go to malls. That'd be like death to me. But anyway, this is the vision of the future that's flying around the internet too. How to flex whilst shopping with your Optimus bots carrying all your bags. It's kind of, it reminds me of, somebody needs to take this image and create the Hex guy with all his shopping bags, because he likes to spend your Hex dollars on his fancy purses. Yeah, I also wouldn't be caught dead with a purse. Shoot me now if I ever wear a purse. All right. Now, on to more stock news, which is kind of proxy Bitcoin news too. This again, James Van Straten inspired me to figure out where MicroStrategy would slot in the QQQ. And the answer is probably number 40. That's how big MicroStrategy is. Even at a $91 billion cap, it had it had over $100 billion market cap the other day. And that would have put it somewhere around analog devices or above Intel. But the point is, there are very, very strict rumors that MicroStrategy will get added to the QQQ, which is the NASDAQ 100 list, on the 20th of December. They announce it 5 days typically ahead of time, so call it the 15th of December, and I don't even know what day of the week that is. They have to take into account certain trading days. Let me just check, actually, because I need to know for myself. December 20th is a Friday. Perfect. So they'll announce it probably on the 16th, maybe on the 13th, and that gives the asset managers time to fill their boots. This could be a big tailwind for MicroStrategy. Again, and according to James Van Straten, the amount of buy, if this is signaled, not saying it will, if it is, they'd have to buy somewhere between $300 million and $1.5 billion in stock. And that's assuming the price of Bitcoin stays where it is right now. And who knows? It might kick off again before year end. A lot of people easily believe we'll have $100,000 Bitcoin before year end. And remember, we got within $170 of that. Now, other stuff too. Crazy today. We had the lowest net asset value ratio for MicroStrategy today since 2023. It's now at 2.1x. How do I know that? Because my model calculates it. It's 2.109. And that was when the price was 348. And the price of Bitcoin was 91,364. Let me check on the price of Bitcoin because 91.7. Okay, so it's gone a little higher. Therefore, the NAV will go down further if the stock price stays the same and doesn't move in after hours, but it typically does. So again, just to show you the NAV, obviously, why does it have such a premium? Because they're recreating a bloody bond market, ladies and gentlemen. I've explained it too many times before. I'm not going to do it again. And the question is, this is from Polymarket, will MicroStrategy hit a $400,000 Bitcoin bag before the end of this year, i.e. by Christmas? And the answer is, I say hell yes. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Saylor is scheming now to find ways to stack as much as he can before Bitcoin breaks through 100K. With all the nation states, all the adoption, the Morocco, the Brazil, the game theory, the treasuries, the pensions, the ETFs, BlackRocks, it's happening. Anyway, final piece of news for today. A little bit of sad news, though. This is from Nick Gurley. It's a pretty crazy statistic. Is now 82% of Americans say it's a bad time to buy a house or a castle, as I say. It's the most pessimistic home buyers have ever been about the housing market in the history of this statistic ever been recorded, and that goes back to the 70s. Okay? Humans have never been so pessimistic about buying a house, or have they ever found it so unaffordable as they do right now? That's the story. 56 nuggets. And all of this is turned into a Substack and a podcast. If you want the slides, all the data, all encapsulated if you like to read, because there's a lot to absorb. Like it takes the team and me hours and hours to put these together every single day. So 10 cents a day for this. I don't even know what it is. Maybe there's a Black Friday sale on this too. I'm not even sure, but the link will be here above. And thank you, everybody. TNT Tesla, Sean Donnelly, Cat with a K. Let me see. Soul Strider. Woohoo. Swiper, no swiping. Can you imagine a Solana project running in Teslas? The winners take most. And yeah, good luck, everybody. Thank you to the 8,000 people watching live. Hit the like. I enjoyed delivering the show. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.